All right, 22 minutes before 9 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Thursday morning. A little bit rainy out there. 52 degrees here at the Paddock Mall, just in case you were wondering. That's a big improvement since yesterday. And this is NewsBites. This is the portion of AM Ocala Live where Robert and I read to you the news from around the world, around the nation, around the state, and in some cases even here in Ocala. And there's at least one story here. Dennis Baxley is from Ocala. It's really a state story. So we'll bring that to you. And what we do is we shorten it. We cut to the chase, get to the point, and give you an opportunity to, in 23 minutes, hear usually between 20 and 25 stories. And that's the whole thing.
Wow.
We put news back into News Talk by doing that. You surprised?
Yes, we do.
All right, well, the first one...
Focusing on Dennis Baxley is when you said that.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that at length, actually. We'll discuss a kind of an open forum thing later on in the morning. What time did I say we were doing that?
10:05.
10:05, okay. We'll do that at that time, after the veteran show. All right. And by the way, when we do this, we also will tell you the news agency we get the story from so that you can look it up further. And the first one is regarding this flu that's going around that Robin is just getting over, that Joe Martone is just getting into, from what I just heard from Patsy.
It's miserable.
So do not take this one lightly. There's another story of another death from the flu, and not to scare you, just to let you know. So here's the story, and I'm getting it from ABC News. Alice Jones and her husband Daryl, both in college and raising 3 children, got sick with the flu on a Thursday. By Monday, Alice, who was 29 years old and an aspiring Dallas nurse, was dead. Daryl Jones, a criminal justice student who served in the U.S. Army in Afghanistan for nearly a year, said he and his children are so devastated that they can't stay in their house and are temporarily living with relatives. He said, "I made it through Afghanistan and thought we would move on with our lives." He turned 27 the day his wife died. He said, "I was thinking this was the most dangerous part of our marriage." Neither Jones nor his wife had gotten flu shots this year. At the time of her death at University General Hospital on January 6th, doctors insisted that the 3 children who are ages 10, 7, and 3 be checked out and vaccinated as well. One of the boys tested positive for the flu. Anyway, a 29-year-old woman dead from the flu just a few days after first getting symptoms of it. The family will hold a funeral service for Alice, the mom, on January 10th, which is tomorrow.
Authorities and news reports say an explosion at a chemical factory in central Japan has killed at least 5 people and injured more than 10 others. Police say the explosion occurred at Japanese metal and chemical company Mitsubishi Materials Corporation's Yokachi plant yesterday afternoon during maintenance. Fire department officials say 17 people injured from the blast were taken to nearby hospitals. Police say 2 were dead, while Japanese media, including Kyodo News Agency, put the death toll at 5. Conditions of the injured were not immediately known. My prefectural police say investigators suspect a hydrogen explosion caused by chemical reaction when plant workers were rinsing heat exchange equipment at a silicone plant on the complex in Yokachi City, about 350 kilometers, which is translated to 222 miles west of Tokyo, reported by the Associated Press.
This story also from the Associated Press. A 58-year-old Utah woman is set to give birth in a few weeks to her first grandchild. Julia Navarro is serving as a gestational surrogate for her daughter and son-in-law after the couple struggled with fertility problems. Navarro's daughter, Lorena Tina McKinnon said she began trying to have a baby with her husband, Mika McKinnon, 3 years ago. The 32-year-old Provo woman said she's had about a dozen miscarriages, with the longest pregnancy lasting 10 weeks. After several tries, the couple began looking for a surrogate. McKinnon said a friend and sister both considered carrying her baby, but ultimately decided against it. That's when her mother offered to step in. As a family, we have to help each other, Navarro said. The Salt Lake Tribune carried the story from the Associated Press. Navarro had to undergo hormone shots for 3 months before an embryo fertilized by her daughter and son-in-law could be implanted. Because of her age, doctors had warned there was only a 45% chance the implantation would be successful. But the procedure was a success, and Navarro said she's had a smooth pregnancy, carrying a developing baby girl. And again, expected to give birth in just a few weeks. 58-year-old woman giving birth to her own granddaughter.
Wow.
How about that?
Gosh. A Navy helicopter with 5 crew members crashed into the ocean off the Virginia coast during a routine training mission yesterday, killing 2 crew members and leaving 2 in the hospital. Rescuers searched into the night for a 5th sailor. The 2 who died were among 4 crew members hoisted from the 42-degree waters by a Navy helicopter and taken to a hospital. The 2 surviving sailors are being treated at Centara Norfolk General Hospital. One is listed in serious condition. The other has been upgraded to fair. The Navy identified the aircraft as an MH-53E. In July 2012, 2 crew members were killed when the same model helicopter crashed into a canyon in the Gulf nation of Oman while lifting a downed aircraft, reported by the Associated Press.
And Robin, being from Wisconsin, you might be happy to know that butter is back, and with a creamy vengeance. Foodies extol its flavor. Purists praise its freedom from trans fats. Annual per capita butter consumption in the United States has risen 25% in the last decade to a 40-year high, according to the American Butter Institute. The average American consumes 5.6 pounds of butter per year. Our sales have been growing by double digits every year, says Albert Strauss, owner of the Strauss Family Creamery, whose cows graze the bucolic hills above Tomales Bay in western Marin County, California. Staeus's European-style butter has proved incredibly popular, he says, especially among chefs. It was created 20 years ago at the suggestion of famed California chef Alice Waters, who wanted a locally produced European-style butter with high-fat content and margarine. Once viewed as healthier, lower-calorie alternative to butter, has decreased in usage. And there you go. That was from ABC News. If you can't do it, Robert, I'll do the next one.
Oh, okay.
You okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
A Nebraska toddler who repeated a slew of profanities in an online video has been taken into child protective custody. While authorities found nothing criminal in the video, officials from the Omaha Police's Child Victim Unit and the Nebraska Child Protective Services took the infant and 3 other children into custody on Wednesday.
All right, you're having a hard time. Let me do these. Okay. Robin is still getting over the flu herself. The story Robin was reading was about a toddler shown in a video swearing, and you would not believe the video I actually watched was on CNN, so they had bleeped out the swear words, but apparently it's making the rounds on YouTube, etc. And it does show a little child in a diaper. Somebody has taught that child a lot of curse words. And anyway, so they have the child has been taken into custody by the Nebraska Child Protective Services. They say no laws have been broken, but there's an investigation going on about safety concerns. I guess they're using that as a reason to do that. All right, the next story is from Reuters. Investors traded cautiously ahead of policy meetings at the European Central Bank and Bank of England this morning, tending to favor the euro and the pound over the dollar and holding back on major equities purchases. Neither bank was expected to change their interest rates, but markets were on alert for any signs of future moves in monetary stimulus or shifts in the economic outlook. The pan-regional FTS Euro First 300 stock index sagged 0.3%. as all the major bourses dipped, while benchmark German bonds were virtually unchanged. In currencies, both the euro and the sterling were able to claw back some of the ground they had conceded to the dollar in recent days. The latter has been pushed high by strong U.S. data. And in a nutshell, the dollar has slipped against the euro and the pound ahead of the central bank meetings.
Oh, it's better now. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, facing what may be the biggest test of his political career, responded yesterday to emails that indicate a top aide was involved in controversial lane closures last year that snarled traffic, by saying the intervention was unsanctioned and unacceptable, and claiming he would hold people responsible. The emails involving the governor's deputy chief of staff, Bridget Ann Kelly, surfaced in a report by the New York Times. They pertain to a bizarre incident in September when lanes at the George Washington Bridge from Fort Lee, New Jersey, were closed for 4 days. Christie faced accusations that the lanes were blocked in retaliation over Mayor Mark Sokolich's refusal to endorse him for re-election last November. The prospective Republican presidential candidate maintained yesterday that he was misled and he had no knowledge of his staff's apparent involvement. Reported by the Associated Press.
Yeah, it's a fishy story, by the way. The next story, also from the Associated Press, famed film director Zhang Yimou must pay more than $1.2 million in fines for having 3 children in violation of China's strict family planning rules, according to officials in a statement issued this morning. A district government in the eastern city of Wuxi said in an online statement that investigators concluded that the director of the movie Hero and the movie House of Flying Daggers and his wife Chen Ting flouted family planning policies by having the children without the approval of the state and before they got married in 2011. China limits most urban couples to 1 child and rural families to 2 if the firstborn is a girl. Zhang, who has a daughter with his first wife, could legally have 1 child with Chen, but the 2 were not married when their first child was born and did not have a birth permit in violation of China's rules. The fines are based in part on the couple's annual income. The government of Wuxi's Binhu district said they earned a total of $580,000 in the years before each of the children was born, and now, because they have 3 children living in China, they've been fined $1.2 million because they have 3 children.
Wow. Just as we Earthlings were trying to adjust to the polar vortex, now comes the CME from the sun massive radiation. Oh, there you go. Just as we Earthlings were trying to adjust to the polar vortex, now comes a CME from the sun. Massive radiation is now hurtling toward us from the sun's coronal mass ejection. According to the science website How Stuff Works, CMEs occur when the fluctuations of the sun's magnetic fields cause a large portion of the surface of the sun to expand rapidly, ejecting billions of tons of particles out into space, and produces a magnetic shock wave that extends billions of miles. If Earth is in the path of that shock wave, our planet's magnetic field will react to the event. This is from ABC News.
You're having a hard time. You want me just to take it from here? Yeah, you're just having a hard time. All right, the next story is from the Associated Press. An Albany, Oregon woman says she suffered a parent's worst nightmare after a school called to inquire whether her 9-year-old autistic son was coming to class. The Oregonian reports that Ashley Ellefson's son, Life Ellefson, was found alone on a school bus Tuesday, still wearing his seatbelt. A Greater Albany Public School District spokesman says the boy spent nearly an hour in the empty bus garage before a district employee tracked him down once officials at Timber Ridge School determined that the 3rd grader was not still at home. District spokesman Jim Haggart says a special needs bus driver had failed to check for students before he left the bus. The spokesman says the driver has been placed on administrative leave while the case is being investigated. Haggart apologized on behalf of the district. The good news is the boy was found. The next story is from ABC News. A terrorist group led by a former Guantanamo Bay detainee was involved in the attack on the U.S. diplomatic facility in Benghazi, according to a news release by the State Department. Ansar al-Sharia in Darna played a part in the attack, according to State Department spokeswoman Jen Psaki. The group is believed to be led by Abu Sufyan Kumu, a Libyan former Guantanamo detainee who was transferred from a U.S. military prison into Libyan custody in 2007, according to cables unearthed by WikiLeaks. Ansar al-Sharia in Benghazi and Ansar al-Sharia in Darna have been involved in terrorist attacks in the past, and that includes the September 11th attack against the United States Special Mission and Annex in Benghazi. That is a quote from Psaki, and it was confirmed at yesterday's daily press briefing. Psaki noted that the State Department has not affirmed that Kumu had any planning role in the attack. The State Department has maintained that the attack was not masterminded by extremists and arose amid demonstrations and political turbulence in the Middle East in response to a controversial video depicting Muhammad, a point contended by the Obama administration in the days after the attack and later questioned aggressively by Republicans in Congress. Kumu was a Libyan tank driver who served 10 years in prison, escaped to Afghanistan, and trained at a bin Laden camp in the 1990s, fought for the Taliban against the Northern Alliance, and received monthly stipends from al-Qaeda, according to a 2005 Department of Defense memo that was leaked to WikiLeaks. The next story is from the Associated Press. A Kentucky lawmaker said yesterday that she accidentally fired a gun in her Capitol Annex office on the first day of the legislative session this week, prompting a police investigation. No one was hurt. Democratic Representative Leslie Combs of Pikeville issued a statement saying the shot was fired unintentionally Tuesday, and that state police assigned to the Capitol found no evidence to indicate any portion of the discharged round left her office. Combs did not offer details, but a House colleague who said he was in her office at the time described it as an accident. He said, quote, she was emptying the weapon and she thought that it was empty and pointed it away and down and pulled the trigger and it went off. That's a statement from Representative Jeff Greer, a Democrat from Brandenburg. The two lawmakers were the only ones in her office when the shot from the semi-automatic handgun was fired. Kentucky State Police Sergeant Jason Palmer, who heads the Legislative Security Unit, said there was no evidence of criminal wrongdoing and that no charges would be filed. Investigators recovered bullet fragments in the office, and there was no indication any fragment went outside of the office, according to the report. Again, I got that from the Associated Press. The next story is from the Ocala Star-Banner. State Representative Dennis Baxley has filed a bill in Tallahassee that would make the state legislature responsible for approving historical monuments and the location of those monuments. Currently, those decisions are being made by managers in the Florida State Park system. The report connects Baxley's proposed bill to a controversial proposal to place a monument honoring the sacrifices of Civil War Union soldiers who fought and died at the Olustee battlefield east of Lake City. The report states that a proposed monument honoring the fallen Union soldiers would be a 10-foot-tall black granite obelisk. The Sons of Union Veterans filed its application last February, stating it believes the monument is necessary to offer a more balanced cultural picture of the Olustee battle. The report states that the park already commemorates Confederate troops with 3 monuments established by the United Daughters of the Confederacy, the first of which was unveiled in 1912 and became Florida's first historical monument. About 2,800 soldiers were killed in the skirmish during the Civil War. 2/3 of them were Union soldiers, or Yankees, and the Sons of the Union Veterans want recognition for their side, including black troops who comprised 1/3 of the Union force that fought there. And that, again, is from the Ocala Star-Banner. This story from NBC News. Dennis Rodman is apologizing for comments Former basketball player Dennis Rodman is reportedly apologizing for comments he made in an interview about an American missionary held captive in North Korea for more than a year. The former NBA star, who has cozied up to North Korea's young dictator, made the apology through an email sent by publicist Jules Filer. He said, quote, "I want to apologize. I take full responsibility for my actions. It had been a very stressful day. Some of my teammates were leaving because of pressure from their families and business associates. My dreams of basketball diplomacy was quickly falling apart. I had been drinking. It's not an excuse, but by the time the interview happened, I was upset. I was overwhelmed. Again, it's not an excuse. It's just the truth," unquote, from Dennis Rodman. A source with direct knowledge of Rodman's itinerary told Reuters news agency the 52-year-old basketball player had then hopped on a chopper to a new multi-million-dollar ski resort, which is one of Kim's showcase projects. In the bizarre, expletive-littered, and sometimes incoherent interview with CNN on Tuesday, Rodman came close to suggesting that the American Kenneth Bay was responsible for his own captivity. Bay, who was 45 years old, was leading a group in North Korea, the reclusive and repressive communist country, when he was detained. He was accused of and convicted of trying to overthrow the government and was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor. The family of Bay says Dennis Rodman is playing games with their loved one's life. The next story is from CNN, comes out of New York. The axe is falling at Macy's. The department store operator said yesterday that it was laying off 2,500 workers and closing 5 Macy's stores. The company is also consolidating its regional management and restructuring its retail and merchandise planning staff. In all, Macy's said it expected the changes to generate savings of $100 million per year. Investors cheered the news, sending Macy's shares up 6.4% in after-hours trading. The news came on a day when shares of Macy's competitor JCPenney sank more than 10% after the troubled retailer released a short and vague statement about its sales performance during the key holiday season. JCPenney said it was pleased with its sales, but failed to release specific figures. The lack of details caused concern among the retailer's investors, who have been betting on progress in the company's turnaround efforts. And this story from USA Today: the International Space Station should continue to serve as a research platform and astronaut destination for at least another decade. The White House and NASA announced yesterday. The Obama administration confirmed its support for extending the orbiting complex's life to the year 2024, 4 years beyond its currently budgeted expiration date. NASA said the decision would enable the $100 billion outpost to return valuable science, solidify the market for commercial space systems that will fly, cruise, and cargo there, with many of those flights planned from Florida's Space Coast, and lay the groundwork for exploration farther out in space. Having at least 10 more years opens up a large avenue of research on board the space station, said Bill Gerstenmaier, head of NASA's human spaceflight operations. He said, quote, "We're starting to see a lot of benefits on the space station that have direct applications to folks here on the Earth. Continuation of the roughly $3 billion a year program beyond the year 2020 will require approval from Congress and the next president, as budgets are evaluated each year, and it's not yet known whether NASA's international partners, Russia, Europe, Japan, and Canada, are also on board with the extension." Well, that's all the time we have for NewsBites. Remember, we do this each weekday morning from about 8:37 or so until 9 o'clock. Gives us about 23 minutes or so to bring you as much news as we can. We shorten the news, in case you didn't already pick up on that. We do that so you can catch up on the news without spending all day listening to the radio, watching TV, or reading the newspaper. Remember, we do this each weekday morning, and if you have a business and you'd like to sponsor this program or any program here on WOCA, give us a call, speak to one of our sales executives. They'll show you how easy it is to advertise on WOCA so that we can help you get business through your door. Our number is 732-8000. You can also visit us in the studios. Just sit across the desk from one of our sales executives. We are located in the Paddock Mall, right outside of the food court on State Road 200 in the Paddock Mall. All right, we'll take a little break. It's 9:01, actually. We're ready to move over for Veterans News with Hank Whittier. This is The Source, WOCA.
Phoenix Promotional Solutions, your company supplier of banners, digital decals, yard signs, and magnetic signs, where you give them approved artwork